so important to be in the right environment so you can prosper and become the best version of yourself.
Every time I've let you in, you've let me down.
Today we are excited to have a man known as the greatest formulator, bio-hacktivist, and keto authority. Shawn Wells is an expert in the fields of performance nutrition, longevity, fitness, and supplementation. He earned his master's degree from UNC Chapel Hill, where he studied nutritional biochemistry with a minor in exercise science. Shawn is a registered dietitian with a decade of experience as chief clinical dietitian in hospitals and skilled nursing facilities. He is also a certified sports nutritionist and has worked with celebrity clients and professional athletes. He has been featured on very well-regarded TV shows and podcasts such as Ben Pawlowski, Ben Greenfield, On It Podcast, and Kyle Kingsbury, Drew Manning Fit to Fat to Fit, What the Fat with Dr. Ryan Lowry, Keto Savage, Keto Evangelist, Keto Athlete, Superhuman Radio, Examine.com, and many, many more. Shawn, welcome to the Mind and Muscle Podcast. Muscle and
Thanks for
Mind,
having me on,
jeez. Well, it was a great intro there. I mean, there's so much to you, Shawn. I didn't even go through everything because your bio is so huge. But finally, after so many months, we've got you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on, brother.
Shawn, I want to start by asking you about your story and what led you down the path of being a biohacktivist.
Well, it's a term I actually came up with. It's, I mean, biohacking is hacking your biology. That's kind of a mashup term, right? Like trying to elicit more performance, right? Getting into your individual biology, hacking it, figuring it out. How do we get more out of it? That's biohacking. But there's another mashup term that's being used in politics that's called hacktivism. And that's when you're hacking for the social good, hacking for activism. So think of like Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Anonymous, some of these groups, wherever you fall on them politically, idealistically, they're trying to do things that help the world through hacking.
Yes.
And so I love the idea of biohacktivism, where typically biohacking is about like the N of one, meaning like self-experimentation to push your own limits. It's all about you. How do I get more for me? How do I take more from this world? Whereas the idea of biohacktivism is about giving more to the world, is about when your head's up, when you're optimized, you can recognize things going on around you. You can have more empathy. You can have deeper connection and relationships when you're optimized and living at your fullest.
Yep.
So that's the idea that I'm throwing out there, biohacktivism.
Obviously, your journey started, you had different autoimmune issues and, one being fibromyalgia and Epstein-Barr. Now, was that sort of like a trigger for you to go down that path? And when did you have it? And what was that time like for you?
So, yeah, that's a great question. And something that happened to me while I was pursuing my master's degree in nutritional biochemistry from UNC Chapel Hill. I was, on my way to becoming a registered dietitian, biochemist, and all of these things. And I got very sick with Epstein-Barr virus, which is also known as mono. And then from that, I got chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. And then later on, I ended up getting a pituitary adenoma and Hashimoto's, which Hashimoto's is a thyroid autoimmune issue. And the pituitary adenoma is a brain tumor. And all of this led me to deepen my search to fix myself.
Yep.
And I think the world has benefited from that. I mean, and I think anyone who's really good at what they do is probably doing it because there's something that they're just so passionate about. And that's for me, like trying to literally survive. And when I was at Chapel Hill, I was in bed inflamed, in pain, hurting, depressed, suicidal, thinking my life was over. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I wouldn't be able to go back to class. I wouldn't be able to finish up my master's. I wouldn't be able to be a dietitian. I wouldn't be anything, let alone the world's greatest anything, formulator or whatever. Like, I was going to be the world's worst something. Like, I was going to be a complete failure laying in bed. And that was incredibly depressing. And that's what led me to dig into keto as a lifestyle. I read all these books, and that's when it started. It was about 20 years ago. And I found out that keto alleviated a lot of my inflammation and pain. And so that was a breakthrough for me. It wasn't like just, oh, it's a way to lose weight and all this stuff. Like, for me, it helped with my autoimmunity dramatically. And then later on, as I got that pituitary tumor, I really buckled down. And that's when I added in paleo and intermittent fasting and biohacking and, doing IVs and working on my blood work and working with an allergist and just digging into everything I could. And that's where I'm at right now.
And how old were you when you started on that journey? And how old are you now?
I'm 45 now.
45. And so that was over 20 years ago you started on the journey? Yeah, exactly.
And so I was a little ahead of the curve on the keto thing.
Yeah, I mean,
but
exactly, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, and if you look at keto, it's, like the number one searched words when it comes to health and nutrition. And you were onto it 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I dug into a lot of biohacking and pushing the limits with supplements and IVs and intermittent fasting and paleo 8 years ago when I got my tumor. So, I mean, I've always been researching what's next, what's ahead of the curve. And I can tell you what's ahead of the curve right now, that you're going to say, Shawn, you were talking about that 5-10 years ago when it gets big. And we can get into that into this.
I'd love to get into
podcast
that.
sure. But, that's where I'm at. I want to be, out front. And then I want to be conveying that message in a clear and simple way so that people can use it. Right now, there's a lot of people out on the forefront, some that are very close friends, that are doing all of these things, that are doing 60 things a day that are very complex, with enemas and putting poop inside themselves, with fecal microbiota transplants and doing like all kinds of IVs and exposing themselves to all kinds of chemicals and peptides and all the things. And it seems very complex and overwhelming to most people. And what I want to do is break that down, make it simple, and tell you how to do it, and tell you what are the things that really move the needle for you. And some of those things are actually extremely simple and free. So we can talk about that too.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about what's the simple takeaways that we can do right now that it's going to help move the needle. And you're right, it is so complex. There's so much information out there that people don't know who to listen to and what to do. And obviously Game Changers being one of them. But I want to start by what's the simple takeaways that we can take away. And then we just mentioned before, moving forward, what are we looking at? Where is it moving towards?
Right. So the simple takeaways right now, the simplest things. I mean, this is going to sound like you got to be kidding, but this is the truth. The truth is this simple. The quality of your relationships determine the longevity of your life.
Love it.
And this has been shown in the longest, most robust study out there, a Harvard study that's now 80 years, that spanned generations. They've looked at everything: blood work, genetics, socioeconomics, demographics, whatever. They've looked at everything. And it's quality of relationships. So who are you putting around you? Are you consciously adding people around you that are building you up, that are mentoring you, that are guiding you, that are challenging you in the right way? And that's critical. And you'll see, like in these blue zones where people live past 100, like Sardinia, Italy, you'll see that they have 3-hour dinners, where they're sitting there. Yes, like people get caught up in, oh, it's the red wine and it's the fish and it's the Mediterranean food and, it's all these different things. And sure, that plays a role. But the biggest thing is that they're slowing down, they're eating together, and they're fellowshipping. They're having true therapy. While we're barreling down the road at 80 miles an hour, like eating a Big Mac and, have the radio turned up and we're weaving in and out of traffic. Like they're taking 3 hours of their day to like sit with each other and connect. And that's powerful.
So environment plays a massive role.
One of the next ones is they've shown that people that are happy live about 12 years longer.
Sure.
So you can choose happiness.
Got it.
It's not like a destination you get to. You can just choose it. I mean, granted, like, shit happens, right? Like stuff happens to us that like you can't control, and some people are really going through it, no doubt. But again, put the right people around you, have quality relationships, that lifts you up. But you personally choosing happiness and talking well to yourself. It's important to have people talking well around you, but talking well to yourself, positive self-talk. How many people say, like, oh, I'm so stupid, like, oh, I'm so fat, like, I'm so this, I'm so that, I'm just going to fail. It's no, like, why should I even bother? Figures, well, that just figured out that was going to happen. I suck at everything. Think about these things that you're saying. Are you saying, like, are you seeing yourself successful? Are you seeing yourself at the next level? Are you seeing yourself happy? Or are you seeing yourself broken down, failing, and like the glass is always half empty? And so it's important that you not only have the positive self-talk, but the positive people around you, and then the positive environment. So we need like the good food, the low EMF. We need like the good air and sunshine. All this stuff is free. We need to take deep breaths. There's psychosomatic connections with, it doesn't matter how your body sees it. Like when you take a deep breath, you relax. And when you're relaxed, you take deep breaths. And when you're stressed, you take shallow breaths. And when you're taking shallow breaths, you're stressed.
Yep.
So you can trick your body either way. It doesn't matter whether you're actually stressed or not stressed. If you take a deep breath, you de-stress. If you breathe shallow, you become stressed. So there's like hacks that you can do. Oh, this stuff is free. Breathe deep. Get the sunshine. Walk around. Relax. Breathe the air. Take your shoes off and ground and get the geomagnetic forces, that from the ground. And smile. That's another hack, right? Again, it's the same thing. Fake it until you make it. Like when you smile, when you laugh, your brain chemistry changes.
Yep.
Because when your brain chemistry changes, you smile and laugh.
Yep.
And again, like these connections, your body doesn't know which order it comes in.
Sure.
So you can hack yourself like that. Make yourself laugh. Make yourself smile. Get the right people around you. And all of this is free. So I can tell you, like, living 12 years longer from choosing happiness, living like well into your hundreds by like the putting the right people around you, and then living with purpose, living with your why, like, the Simon Sinek, like start with your why. That's so critical too. Like, and you see when people retire, how they die shortly after. All of us, it should be our goal that we work until the day we die.
Sure.
But we work with purpose, and we change how we define work, where work isn't a grind, but work is pleasure. Work is like when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
100%.
So that's what we be seeking, is to have purpose until the day we die, and not just kicking our feet up and just relaxing for 20 years or whatever it is. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
You need to have purpose. So those are some free things right there that I think make more difference than all the needles and peptides and stem cells and biohacks and keto and whatever I could tell you. And I can tell you lots of those things.
Yep.
But those things are absolutely the most important.
So that's kind of like the foundations of what you really need to do, even before you choose a type of diet that is going to help you with your health or your chronic pain or your inflammation. You know, environment plays such a big role, and we grow in communities that encourage us and help us prosper and focus on building us up rather than tearing us down. And then the second part to that, the inner dialogue of the voice, the 70,000 thoughts that we have a day, is going to have a huge impact on our decisions and what we decide to put in our mouths, and also consciously thinking about what we need to do to feel a certain way. And you hit it on the head when you said you can live 12 years longer by just doing the simplest things that are absolutely free. But, talking about earthing and what that can do for you is absolutely huge, and it's just really outside on the grass, and it's not that hard to do. And, obviously, does that kind of become the premise of the ketogenic lifestyle that you've led? Is that part of that natural lifestyle that's helped your health and, also millions of other people around the world?
It's all about living with intent and balance. Like, it's not all or nothing. And like, going back to what we were just talking about, like, I think it's so important that, like, we are the good that you want to see in the world. Like, be the good you want to see in the world, like that. Like, we complain so much about the way the world is, and we want the world to change. We need to change the world. We need to be the force that's going out there and doing it. That if something's wrong, don't wait for a savior. You are your savior. Go out there and fix it yourself. Stop complaining. We need people that are solutions focused and not complainers.
Yep.
So if you're tired of the way the world is, or the way people act, or you say, my boyfriend's such a jerk, well, he shouldn't be your boyfriend. And, if your job really sucks, then go find a different job. And if the people around you suck, then go get different people around you. And if you want like a better life, then go make a better life. Like, stop complaining, stop waiting, go do it. You have the power to go do it. And that's where living with intent and like doing things like you're talking about with the self-talk, like gratitude journaling and like planning out your day, again, with intent and having that real purpose to your life and executing against it with positive self-talk and mantras and, daily affirmations and vision boards and whatever it is. Like, do that. Start visualizing it from yourself and hearing it from yourself and the conscious people you put around you that are like challenging you to like do more.
Sure.
And yeah, you'll start accomplishing. And for me, that's key for, even like you're saying, like for keto, for supplements, for biohacking, whatever it is, having people that are positive minded that are approaching this stuff. I think you can actually make yourself sick with this stuff.
Sure, you can.
Just bodybuilding, all the things, right? Things that are supposed to be healthy can become very unhealthy. Your pursuit of like the perfect body or the perfect health or the perfect job or whatever, it can be very unhealthy if you're not grounded in the right way and with the right people around you.
Yep.
So it's important to have balance along with the intent. And like, I've found with keto, for example, that I'm not all or nothing. Like, if this is going to be the rest of my life, then if there's a really great meal that I want to have, I have it. And then I do fasting. And then I do exercise around it. Or, I just enjoy the meal for what it is. I don't give myself guilt. And I've planned, like, I don't have cheats. I have planned carbohydrates where I say, you know what, I'm going to have this, I'm going to enjoy it, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. And this is my life. This isn't like 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So I do cyclical, and I do targeted ketogenic dieting, and I do fasting, and I eat paleo, and I use things like berberine and MCTs, and I do great.
Yeah.
And my health is good, and I can always continue to get better, but it's a journey. I'm not sitting here trying to beat myself up. And I have ebbs and flows in my weight. I have ebbs and flows in my depression. And that's okay. Like, I'm not perfect. Like, I used to worry about being perfect because I was a sports nutritionist and dietitian and biochemist and, pseudo celebrity, I guess, like on TV and other things. But now I feel okay saying like I'm perfectly imperfect and I have depression and I battle things and I battle my weight at times. And now I connect so much deeper with people because I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not throwing on the filter, and I'm trying to live with balance, and I'm trying to live this as a life, a real lifestyle. And so I think it's most important to connect with people where they're at and not try and like make someone who's, a lay person that's, at the office and overweight, like into Ben Greenfield. It's not going to happen. Like they're not going to become this competitive Spartan athlete at, 4% body fat that's got 60 million devices and peptides and what. It's overwhelmed. Like the thing is, like I'll say, like, can you go from 6 Cokes a day to 2 Cokes? Can we just start there? And like the scientific method is one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So just see what that one thing does, how your body feels, and if it feels good, keep doing that, and then add the next thing. But you didn't get that far off the rails easily, and you're not going to get back on track that easily. But you can start taking one step at a time and living with intent and getting on the right track by just literally putting one foot in front of the other. You don't have to go 8,000 miles down the road. You just need to go one step and another step.
What I love about that, Shawn, is you're owning your emotions. Even when you're feeling down, you're owning it and you're accepting it. You're not holding it and you're moving on continuously. You're not looking at perfection, but you're always looking at how to perfect yourself in the state you're in. And when I look at you and you're talking about paleo, you're talking about cyclical ketosis, you're talking about intermittent fasting, what you've been able to do is combine all that and bring it as one. And so that when people are looking at it, I'm just going to just do ketosis, or I'm just going to do paleo, or I'm going to just do carnivore. You've been able to combine all of it to work for you, where it's not about having all these devices plugged into you to find out exactly what's happening in every second of the day. And you've been able to balance that out, and you're giving people simple tools by doing one thing. If you're having 3 Cokes, have 1 or 2 Cokes and keep bringing it down. Do you think people get overwhelmed by reading and looking at so much, going, I can't do that, and then they don't even know where to start?
Oh, it's crazy overwhelming right now. I mean, not only are we overwhelmed with all of the knowledge out there, and there's more than ever, but there's also more than ever misinformation.
Sure.
And so-called experts that have no idea what they're doing. And it just creates tons of confusion. There's so much science that people don't understand. Then there's people offering a lot of advice that's understandable, but it's wrong. And we've got just so much going on. It's extremely overwhelming. And everyone's saying, do these 100,000 things. And what you need to do is start where I said to start. Like, start by putting the right people around you. Start by talking to yourself in a positive way. Start by living with intent. Start by taking a walk in the morning. Start by treating the people around you well and fostering those relationships and putting your fucking cell phone down. I mean, I just have to say that. Put your cell phone down. Yeah. Put your cell phone down. Please put your cell phone down and like connect with people. Like, look someone in the eye and deeply connect with them, and you'll be shocked at like in 2 minutes, like how much more you're getting out of like this relationship. There's nothing more important than the relationships we have. It's the most important thing in our lives.
Yeah.
And even if you live 20 years, you could live a rich life if you deeply connected with people. So I'm going off on tangents.
No, that's okay. I mean, the next question I'm going to ask is like over the last 20 years, how many people did you move on in your life, and how many new people did you bring on that helped you prosper and move towards a direction that you needed to live with the purpose and the intention that you were looking for?
So much. I mean, so much changed in my life. I'll tell you what, like when you really want to change yourself for the better, you will see a lot evolve around you. You'll see amazing people come into your life, and you're like, where did these people come from? Because you're putting out positive energy and kindness. And you'll also see people reveal themselves for what they are, that are jealous of you, that are hateful to you, that are counterproductive to your energy. The most important thing you have in your life is your energy. It's not money. It's not it's energy. And there's so many people that are taking it, that are literally just energy vampires draining it from you. And you need to have enough energy to live life well, to be optimized. And it's so important. And so finding your energy and finding people that light you up and give you that energy is critical. And right now you're justifying a lot of the relationships you have, but think about it. Are these people lighting you up or draining you? And that's one of the simplest things you can do, is look at that. And absolutely, I'll tell you another thing is like just being an entrepreneur is tough too. It's a lonely road where you work 80 to 100 hours a week. Nothing ever shuts off. And people are always telling you, must be nice to have all the things you have, the money you have, or a car. And they don't realize that all of your money that you're making is going back into your business. Yep. That your car is like your one nice thing that you have, because life is overwhelming and, you know, you're burdened. So you just want to enjoy the 30-minute drive you have. Like they don't understand like how
I totally agree. Yep.
Being an entrepreneur is, and like how people's lives hang in the balance when you're an entrepreneur, that you're paying, that you're keeping up.
Yep. And
it's an intense pressure, and it's not a 9-to-5 thing, and it's a very different thing. And so it's very lonely being an entrepreneur. And luckily there's masterminds and events and more things now that are allowing entrepreneurs to connect, to share, and not be suicidal, not be traumatized, not be lonely. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, these guys must be living the life like Elon Musk. He's a billionaire. Yep. He was sleeping at the Tesla factory for weeks on end, like working 22-hour days.
So you're talking about Elon Musk and obviously entrepreneurs and how it's a lonely ride, and people look at it and perceive that it's easy. And when I look at your life and your career, you know, you've spoken at KetoCon, you've spoken at FitCon, Arnold Classic, Europa. A lot of people are looking to take Shawn's time because they need something. At these events, obviously you're talking to the people that aspire to be like you, Shawn. What do you see when you see the people that come to these events? Are they broken people that need more than just that one session where they come to these events? Or do you see people that are on the mend?
No, 1,000%. Almost everyone I see is broken. And I think broken people seek me out because I'm broken. I have so many. If you go to my site, ShawnWells.com, you'll see like this, it's called the Vitruvian Man, like that Da Vinci, character with like the arms and legs out. Yeah. And I have like about 50 different ailments that I point out on my body that I've been through in my life. It's been far from perfect. My work ethic, my genetics, there's been environment, so many things that have been stacked against me, but I'm not here complaining. I'm just trying to make the best of it. And I am broken, and I've contemplated suicide at least 4 or 5 times in my life. And that's something I've become very open about. And I think broken people seek me out, and I seek out broken people. I see them. Yeah. I see like the pain. I see what's being held just beneath the surface, and that's a place that I deeply connect. And I've been saying now that my broken is my beautiful. Like now it's like, it's who I am. Like I embrace it. I would not be here. I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now had I not been suicidal, had I not been in pain and sick. All those things made me the world's greatest formulator, made me empathetic, made me compassionate, made me care about people. all of that like drove me with passion. Like, so I'm not wanting to change any of it. It's the exact opposite now. Instead of like running from me being like, oh, I was like overweight, oh, I was over sick, and I got to hide that from everyone. No, I'm not hiding it from anyone. Like, that's who I am. I'm embracing it. That's what made me me. That's what's connecting me to you.
Sure.
I'm not fucking perfect at all.
Of course.
I'm far from it. I'm struggling every day, but I'm living with intent and just working on myself to get better every day. That's what I'm doing, and I'm here to help people do that too.
I find the people that have the greatest impact have had the greatest adversities in life, and those stories more people can relate to. You see, obviously, suicide at its highest, and obviously, social media and all the different platforms don't bring communities together, like you said. They divide communities, and it's on the rise, and especially in males more so than females. Obviously, one of the biggest beneficiaries for you, you're able to find out what diet worked the best for you, and how nutrition can also have an effect on your emotions, on your anxiety and your depression, which can then lead to obviously suicidal thoughts. How important was, like, let's just go back to how important was nutrition to give you ownership of your life?
Oh, huge. I think, I mean, first off, if males really are truly more suicidal than females, I would think one of the biggest reasons is we as males don't connect as deeply.
We hold things
It's
in.
all this bro talk and you know, fist bumps and bro, like half bro hugs, like no homo, quote unquote, right? Like these fake, like not real relationships where we can't tell each other like we love each other and like actually hug each other and like get deep like with each other. So for sure, if that happens, that's why. But nutrition plays a massive role. What you're putting in your body. If you're putting all these chemicals in that are we were never evolved for. Like, you know, I talk about this, like the new fad diet isn't like keto or paleo or intermittent fasting. The new fad diet is GMOs, antibiotics, RBH, RBST, is ultra processed food, is vegetable oils, and all this crap that we're eating, these high bliss point engineered foods that manipulate our brain to overeat, to feel addicted. That's the new fad diet.
100%.
And it's the ultimate scam that we've been given all these foods and that are in bags and boxes that are supposed to be healthy for us. And they're not. Like it's 100 calorie, you know, whatever. It's, you know, it's a granola, it's rice cakes, and it's all garbage. You know, it's like the margarine they told us that was healthy. Oh, it's vegetables, it's healthier. And meanwhile, butter was always the healthy thing. It's not like, I don't even argue, like, we can get into game changers if you want. But
we'll touch on it for sure.
But it's not vegan that makes you sick. It's not carnivore that makes you sick or anything in between. Like, there's animals that are healthy on any of those diets. If you're eating whole food and you're living a good lifestyle and you're thinking your way through your diet, and then you can be healthy. The worst thing is that, and the dumb thing in Game Changers is they're constantly comparing like this whole food, vegan, well-constructed diet to like a Western, like garbage, standard American McDonald's diet. Like, no, duh. That if I was to take like a healthy nose-to-tail carnivore organic diet, or if I was to take someone on a Mediterranean diet that's eating extremely healthy, then you're not going to see much difference, and you probably see the diet be better in, you know, away from even the vegan direction, because a lot of the vegan foods have more allergens, have more issues like the phytates and the lectins and glyphosates, and exactly, all those things that are huge issues. It's not like vegan's necessarily healthy. You have to choose wisely, no matter what. You like, there's crappy hot dogs and Spam and garbage meat that you could be eating, and there's garbage, like you could be vegan and have Coca-Cola and gummy bears. Like,
That's right.
what does it mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? So yes, like eating a certain way, eating with intent is important. Again, like you have to choose wisely, but the easiest thing, the thing we all should agree on, is eating whole food.
Yeah.
I can talk about keto, I can talk about fasting, I can talk about, cyclical and ketogenic and targeted ketogenic dieting.
Yeah.
All these different things. Like we can get really technical with it, backloading your carbs and all these different things. Sure. But we should all agree, it's very simple, that we should all start with whole food.
Whole foods.
Animals aren't out there getting sick because they're eating a high-fat diet, or they're eating too much protein, or they're like going too high in carbs. There's people that eat 80% fat that are healthy. There's people that eat 80% protein that are healthy. There's people that eat 80% carbohydrates that are healthy. But you know what they do? They exercise, getting sunshine, they've got good relationships, they're eating whole food. Okay.
Yep.
So those are the things that matter. Like, I think we're spending too much time on the details when we're, missing the forest through the trees on that one.
Well, I totally agree with that. And, I was reading one of your posts, and you were talking about, getting produce from your local farmers market, which is obviously, of organic produce. How much does getting the right produce from your local market matter in terms of bringing inflammatory markers down? Because it's done a lot for me. And you were talking about lectins and nightshade. Well, I'll mention nightshades. When I removed that from my diet, it helped a lot with knee and joint pain. And obviously, I realized what worked really well for me. And I'm not saying that people do as I do, but I advocate, obviously, going to your local farmer's market. And people say, look, organic food costs more. But if you're doing intermittent fasting and eating less food, it's really not that much more, is it?
No, absolutely not. Like I said, these cheaper foods are meant to engineer your brain into overeating. So they're literally called high bliss point foods that trigger dopamine and serotonin. They spend millions of dollars and hours upon hours doing this with chemicals and making you want to continue to eat, and then feel depressed when you don't have it, and feeling addicted and you need it, and you're compelled to grab it at the convenience store. And then you see all the colors that these packages have, and it's a game.
Yep.
It's a capitalistic game. So absolutely, not only is it cheaper and healthier to just eat organic whole food, but like you're saying, I think one step beyond that is eating local. Sure. It's not normal to have like a pineapple in the middle of winter that's shipped from the other side of the world.
Agree.
It's just not normal. It's like, that's not something that we should do. Like, yes, is a pineapple healthy? Sure. But should we be having it in winter? Probably not. So it's probably manipulated or it's weeks and weeks old. We should probably be eating foods that are not only local, but that are pulled up or that are killed or whatever you want to say, like closest to the time you're eating it. That's the healthiest way, the freshest possible food. And that means local. So that's highly ideal.
And, I was reading one of your posts, and you're talking about reversing the biological clock is one of the hottest topics at the moment. And, a few months ago when I was talking to you, you were doing a 72-hour fast on broth. And obviously it helps with collagen production, and it helps reverse aging. Where do you see that, and how often do you do that for yourself?
The extended fast?
Yeah, the extended fast. And obviously, I think you're having broth at the time with it, bone broth. Yeah, and I do intermittent fasting a fair bit. I've been experimenting lately with not doing it, but I've been doing it typically like a 16 and 8 or a 20 and 4.
I do enjoy doing like a 3-day extended fast, like maybe once a quarter, for the autophagy / mitophagy benefits, that cellular detox, to clean out the junk from your cell. And it raises growth hormone, and it lowers insulin, and it lowers inflammation, and allows your body to heal. And it's really important to do. And you might feel like that you can't make it, that you're too hungry, you're too tired. When beta hydroxybutyrate ketone levels elevate, you feel the appetite drop, and you feel your energy rise and your brain light up. I promise you can break through that wall, and it's so empowering. And when you feel that you no longer need to eat because everyone else is eating, because everyone else is snacking, because there's a restaurant that you're at, or because there's a vending machine near you, or because you had to walk into the convenience store to pay for the food or the gas, or you're at the restaurant and there's chips or bread on the table and you don't need it. That's powerful. Like, it's so empowering to do fasting, to feel like I choose food. I don't need to have food. I don't have to have the food because other people are having it. I'm choosing to eat it because I live with intent. And it's a powerful shift. And it's something that really won't make sense until you do it. But once you feel that, not only the energy and the clarity and, just feeling like detox, but like having that mental shift of food isn't that important. It's really empowering. A game changer. That's important. Yeah, I think that most people should do, and was very common. Obviously, throughout history, we called it starving at times, but now we call it fasting. But yeah, I think it's a powerful thing. It's definitely a tool that you should have.
And when you were doing the 72-hour fast, you were using broth to your advantage with that, weren't you? And that was helping with the autophagy.
I feel that it helps with healing the gut lining, collagen, and bone broth. Bone broth, 1, has the electrolytes, but 2, it provides a little bit of collagen. So is it a pure fast? And people get ultra technical about that? No, but I don't really care what you think.
I actually like it a lot. I like it a lot. When you were telling me about it, I go, man, that's something that is sustainable. It's doable, and the benefits of bone broth are just unbelievable.
Oh, they're amazing. And so, and it's also nice to just have some hot liquid. It's something that feels like nourishing and relaxing, like when you're trying to go through an extended fast. So it's something that I enjoy, and it's the way that I do it. But everyone takes their own journey on it, and it's not about weight loss, and it's not about doing it the perfect way. It's about detoxing your mind and your body. And, for some, if you look at all the ancient religions, they all have fasting, all of them.
Exactly.
There's a reason for that, because we get spiritual clarity and enlightenment, because we're getting rid of, we're shedding all the stuff that's built up in us, in our mind, in our life, in our body. And it's really fascinating how critical it is throughout history. And again, what are we doing? We're just eating all day long. We're snacking. We're never seeing these benefits. And then we're becoming metabolically dysfunctional, where we're having insulin elevated all day long, blood glucose elevated all day long. We're getting insufficient cellular energy state because of mitochondrial dysfunction. We're becoming type 2 diabetic and obese because we're eating all the time. And we're never going into ketosis. We're never getting autophagy. And we're getting all these diseases despite having supposedly better technology and better healthcare.
And, I was looking at the, obviously, people are talking about sirtuins and how they help with obviously reversing the biological clock, anti-aging. And, they're talking about resveratrol and NMN, but you can almost get there with fasting, the ketogenic diet, hot and cold therapies, where you don't need those types of supplements. Is that right?
Totally. I mean, honestly, those things that you're just talking about really aren't that proven, like with NMN or with resveratrol. You're seeing very mixed conflicting results, and it's in animal studies, and there's promise there. I think there's research that's forthcoming, and it's interesting to do NADIVs, which I just did a couple of days ago. It's all fascinating.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, going the path that you're talking about, when you're like exposing yourself to stressors like cold therapy, like hot therapy, infrared saunas, and cryogenic and cold plunges, and all those things, you're allowing your body to deal with stress better, not just physiologic stress of hot and cold, of, you know, lifting weights, of all these things that you're doing, like that help you adapt.
Yeah.
But it's eustress and distress, right? So there's, your body sees it as stress, and you have this bucket that's called your allostatic load, that how much stress you can take on. And there's positive stress, which is eustress, and there's negative stress, which is distress. But your bucket gets bigger as you allow yourself to take on more stressors. You have to do it in a healthy way. You can't do it all at once.
That's right.
But there's certainly like a limit to how you do it. But when you, because think about like how thermoregulated we are, at like room temperature all day long in our car, in our house, in our office. We're not exposing ourselves to hot and cold anymore. We're not fasting anymore. We're not working out in the field anymore. We're going to a gym and like lifting a few weights. But like most people were like working all day long manually. Most people went a day or two without eating because they didn't have food.
Yep.
You know, most people were exposed to hot and cold because they didn't have a house. And now we're getting so regulated, and we're breathing our recycled air, and we're under our fluorescent lights, and we have our shoes on, and we're in our home with our carpets, and we're not getting out and grounding and getting sunlight, getting fresh air, and we're not moving our bodies, and we're not eating whole food, and we're not getting hot and cold exposure, and we're not doing all the things our bodies were meant to do.
Yeah.
And then we're wondering why we're sick.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, you know, in some ways, you know, going down the other route, you know, with resveratrol and NMN, which, you know, the studies have been shown that it does have a positive effect. But we're not utilizing all the other things that you mentioned before, like your community, your people, grounding, the air. If we start utilizing nature, we're going to get a lot closer to where we want to be, but also our happiness is going to be elevated. You know, they talk about, you know, bringing the mTOR response down. But if you're doing all the other things and limiting the window of eating, you're bringing that response down anyway. And you need a bit of that to actually build, you know, obviously skeletal muscle mass. That's important to turn it on at those times anyway. You know?
Exactly. That's exactly right. You got it.
Yeah, so... You know, I'm loving this. The viewers are going to obviously take a lot away from this, Shawn. But I want to go into, you know, you were saying you've always been ahead of the cusp, and we're going to talk about where do you think the next 10 years are going to take us?
I got it. So the most important thing that I can tell your viewers is, and you heard it here first, that the next keto is Mito. M-I-T-O. Mito, mitochondrial health, just for the reasons you were just talking about.
Health,
It's going to be massive.
Yes.
And there's three ways that I could change healthcare dramatically.
Yeah.
Literally change everything about healthcare. We could get rid of most of the labs we're using. We could get rid of 85% of the cost we're spending. We could change everything if we looked at 3 labs for probably about $100, maybe once or twice a year.
Yep.
If we were looking at hemoglobin A1C for blood sugar, because blood glucose is a little too transient. If we were looking at CRP, C-reactive protein, for inflammation, and we were looking at something like oxidized LDL for oxidation, those 3 simple labs, and I could add like lipoprotein A for heart health, and maybe like vitamin D status or something. Like if I was to name my top 5, that would be tremendous. We could see, because when you get into these insufficient cellular energy states, when you get into mitochondrial dysfunction, remember the mitochondria is the cellular powerhouse, right?
That's right.
It creates ATP, which is the energy currency the body uses. And we get into these states where we don't have enough energy. We need this much, and we're making not enough. We're below that cusp. And over time, that creates inflammation, glycation, which is blood sugar damage, and oxidation, which is essentially like rust. And yes, there's moments of acute inflammation that are good, like when we have an injury or there's some kind of trauma. It's good. And there's moments that obviously insulin should be elevated and blood glucose should be elevated. And there's moments when we should have oxidation. It's a signal. It's a trigger. But when it's chronically elevated, all these things are chronically elevated, it's problematic. And then you're having problems with these sirtuin genes. You're shortening your telomere length, which is biologically aging, right? So we're aging faster biologically than chronologically. Yes. If there was a way that I could track all these things, like on your body, like a continual glucose monitor, I could tell you day to day, you age this much today because of the things you did. So mitochondrial health is going to be critical. And I'll tell you the most important supplements everyone should be taking right now.
Well, can't wait to hear this one. Yeah.
Berberine is my number 1. Period. The end. Berberine.
Yep, berberine.
Berberine is the most powerful.
Actually, I've seen that on your website. I've seen that on your website. Yep, berberine.
Yeah, glucose agent. And
make sure you get that thing, berberine. Yeah.
Diabetic or not, take berberine. It's powerful for fixing all of this stuff.
Shawn, let's take berberine. But where can we get the best quality one from? Because our listeners are going to want to know that.
I formulated one with BioTrust called IC5. I don't get any benefit from it financially. I think that's a really good one. Another great one, a great company, Thorne. I love everything Thorne does. So those are some companies that I would look at.
Oh, beautiful. We might list those after the show. We'll put those in the show notes and we'll list those because getting advice like that from you is huge, and I know our listeners.
Well, I can come back and talk supplements.
100%. I know that. Well, you're the number 1 formulator in the world. I was gonna obviously. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and there's a lot of great gold nuggets that people can take away from. I was going to get into a lot more, like obviously, when you're on the ketogenic diet or the carnivore diet, obviously, you're going to have elevated LDL levels. And it's been demonized that bad that people are so scared when they go to their doctor and they get tested, and then they think, geez, I'm going to have to get on a drug to bring this level down. I have to get off the fats. And it's the wrong thing to do. How often do you see that? How many questions do you get about that when people go do their tests?
All the time. Yeah. It's the biggest scam in medical history, cholesterol.
Yeah.
The higher your cholesterol, the longer you live.
Well, yeah.
Study after study shows it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And literally, these statins are killing people. Okay. There was data that was just published the other day that showed this, that said these drugs, this classification of drugs, I'm trying to think of the name. They had like a really crazy euphemism for this class of drugs to say that basically it may not be healthy, but the results of what they said are that it's unequivocally counterproductive.
Yes.
And it's crazy, like the billions of dollars that have been spent on this to kill people. It's just like more people are dying from the chemotherapy than from the cancer.
Yeah.
It's insane. And cholesterol medications are insane. And LDL is not the bad cholesterol. It's so much more complex than that. There's large, fluffy LDL, and then there's small, dense LDL. And there is that one marker, I would look at LPA, that lipoprotein A, that I think is correlated with heart disease that we should look at. But if someone's just using a calculated total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and putting you on a medication, they're an idiot.
They're totally wrong.
And they have no idea what they're doing. And you need to do a much deeper dive into the different particles, the sizes, the kilomicrons, like looking at, you do an NMR test or a VAP test. And if your doctor isn't doing those more complex tests, then you need to go to a different doctor.
Someone else. Yeah. Totally agree. Okay. Shawn, I just obviously want to thank you for coming on. I know you're limited with your time and the time difference there in Texas. I absolutely enjoyed our conversation, and we could have been talking for hours, but we don't have hours, and we're going to definitely have you back on, and looking to do further retreats with you. Shawn, obviously you're a wealth of knowledge, number one formulator, 20 years as a ketogenic doctor. People need to find you. People need your help that you've been able to give for so many years. Where can people find you, and is it easy to get access to you, and what are the best platforms?
Yeah, ShawnWells.com, ShawnWells.
Yep.
And then on Instagram @ZoneHalo, that's my supplement formulation company. So ZONE, or you say Z,
Yeah.
ZONEHALO, Zone Halo. And that's probably the best place to find me is Instagram and my website. So I am available to people. I answer questions. I don't charge anything. I don't have any products. It's literally me just caring about what I do and being passionate.
Thanks a lot, Shawn, and your content's it's amazing on Instagram. So if people just want to get on there and just see your content on your website, I've been on there on many occasions, and I implore anyone to who wants to learn more and become the best version of themselves to get on there and check you out. And man, I just want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I know our audience is going to absolutely love this podcast.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Love you, man.
Yeah, thanks. All right. That's another episode of Muscle and Mind Show with Shawn Wells. We'll be back and see you guys soon.